Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to your Ed Puzzle homework tonight, dealing with test prep number 6. So tonight we're going to be working on our gray numbers. So as you're going through and solving them, make sure you're coloring in your bingo board with the right colors that match how easy it was for you to solve that problem. All right, so going through here, our first question for tonight is question 43. It says, enter a number that rounds to 2,000 when rounded to the nearest thousand. So what you've got to do is you've got to enter a number in there that would round to 2,000 when you round it to the nearest thousand. So go ahead and take a second and try to solve that there. All right, well, we got to look at this. There could be a lot of different answers here. Okay, for example, my class, we know the saying of 5 and above, give it a shove, and 4 and below, let it go. And we also know that our neighbor is going to tell us what we need to do. Okay, so for example, if I'm trying to create a number that I can round to 2,000, I know there's going to be 4 digits. Okay, and I know the thousands place is the place I'm going to try to round. And when I'm all done, I want the thousands place to be a 2 when I'm done. Now, looking at that, I know my neighbor in the hundreds place is going to tell me what I have to do. That neighbor is either going to tell me 5 and above, give my digit in the thousands place a shove, so it goes up to the next one because it's big enough to round up. Or my neighbor is going to tell me 4 and below, let it go, and that digit in the thousands place is going to stay the same because it's not big enough to round up. So for example, I could put any number in this hundreds place that is either a 0 through a 4. I could put 0 there, I could put 1 there, I could put 2 there, I could put 3 there, I could put 4 there. Because all of those are 4 and below. Which means if I start off with a 2 here in the thousands place, if my neighbor's telling me 4 and below, it's going to stay a 2, and then it's going to round down to 2,000. And it really doesn't matter what I put in the tens and the ones, because those don't affect my thousands place when I'm rounding to the thousands. The hundreds place is the one next door. It's telling you what to do. It's like a neighbor if you're ever home alone. It can help you out. Now, though, it's not only a 2 that you could put here, because you could have also put a 1 here to start. So your number could have said 1,000 something. But if that's the case, you know that your number in the hundreds place either has to be 5 through 9, because that's going to tell you to round up, which means the hundreds place would push your 1 in the thousands place up 1 spot. Okay, nice job with that. Let's move on to the next one here. Next question is 47. It says, in the circle diagram shown, point Y, which is right here, is at the center of the circle. The question says, what is the measure in degrees of angle XYZ? Enter the number in the box. Okay, well, you know, if you're trying to figure out the measure of angle XYZ, if X was up here, right, my angle would look like this. And I would have to try to figure out what XYZ was, so I'd have to figure out this whole angle, or the space here. Okay? And we've talked about that. A lot of you do a really good job with that. However, X is not up there. X is over here on the side, which means I'm trying to figure out the measure of angle XYZ, which means it's a straight line. That means my angle that I'm trying to solve is this big, because I start at one of my arms and I run till I get to my other arm, because Y would be your vertex, right? Y is your vertex there, which means that's your middle point. So that's where your arms connect. So when I look at this angle, it really looks like half of a circle, or kind of looks like a protractor. And we know that a half a circle or a protractor is 180 degrees. Okay, nice job. Let's move on to the next one. Next question is 40. It says, what is the product of 24 and 13? Enter the number in the box. So again, you've got to know what product means. Product is the answer to a multiplication problem, which means you're really doing 24 times 13 to solve this. And there are a lot of different ways that you can try to solve this problem. For example, you might want to draw the box. You're going to break 24 into 20 and 4 and put it on the side. That means you got to cut your box, though, because you cut your number up. Then you've also got to cut 13 apart into 10 and 3 and cut your box there. Then all you've got to do in your pieces is multiply the numbers together that come together. So, for example, down here in the bottom right corner, you would do 4 times 10, which would be 40. Over in this piece here, you would do 4 times 3, which would be 12. Up here in the top, you would do 20 times 10. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. And then you got to put 2 zeros at the end of your answer to scoot it over in the right place. And then our last box would be 20 times 3, which would be 60. Then all you got to do from there is add all your parts together. Well, I know 200 plus 60 is 260. So now I got to do 260 plus 40 plus 12. I start small, I start in the ones. 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 2. Then I go to my tens. 6 plus 4 is a 10, plus 1 will be 11. Put down my 1, carry my new group. 1 plus 2 would be 3. So my answer for this is 312. That would be my product. All right, very good. Let's move on to the next one here. Next one is question number 9. Okay, the first question says, what is the sum in degrees of the measures of angle QRT and URS? You're going to enter that number in the first box. Part B says, what is the measure in degrees of TRU? Enter that number in the second box. So the first question, you got to know what sum means. Sum means you're adding. And they want to know what the measures of QRT, so I got to trace over QRT. I know that angle's worth 20 degrees because it tells me right there it's 20 degrees. Okay. And I also need to add URS. So URS. And I know that angle's 135 degrees. If I'm trying to figure out the sum of those two angles, all I've got to do is add them together. 135 plus 20. My answer there would be 155 degrees. That's the first part. The second part says, what is the measure in degrees of TRU? Well, TRU is that missing angle that's right here in the middle. TRU. And when I look at this whole thing, it really looks like a half a circle or 180 degrees. I know this part here is worth 135. I know this part here is worth 20. I've got to figure out what's missing from 180 degrees. So if I can get rid of some of the parts I know, that means I'm going to take 180 degrees. I'm going to get rid of the angles I know. I could do them separately, but I already solved how much they were all together. So I can get rid of, or I can subtract the parts I already know. I can't do 0 minus 5, so I've got to borrow. So this would be 7 tens. That means this would be 10 ones. Well, 10 ones minus 5 ones, that would be 5 ones. 7 tens minus 5 tens, that would be 2 tens. And then 1 minus 1 would be 0. So my answer for part B would be 25 degrees. And I could always go back and check that, because if I combine those two angles together, they should equal 180 degrees, because that's what my picture shows me. Nice job. Let's go on to our next one here. Our next one and our last one says, a list of numbers is shown. Drag the numbers to the boxes to order them from greatest to least. So really it all comes back to place value. Okay, if I'm looking at place value here, I'm always going, just like when I'm going alphabetical order, I want to look at that digit that's the farthest out. And all of these numbers have digits in the hundreds place. So really all I've got to do to figure out which one's the greatest is see which one's got the biggest digit in the biggest place. And we said all of these have digits in the hundreds place, so I've got to figure out which hundreds place is the biggest. When I look at these numbers, the hundreds place that's the biggest is 9 hundredths. So that would be the greatest. Okay, so that one's been used. Now I got to figure out which hundreds place is the next biggest. Well, the next biggest hundreds place here would be 4 hundredths. So now that one has been used. Now it just comes down to my last two. Well, I know that the one on the bottom has 3 hundredths. The one at the top has 2. 3 hundredths is worth more than 2 hundredths. So 3 hundredths would be here, and then my least or my smallest would be 234. Okay? Nice job with that. All right, we're on to our bonus question here. All right, so first thing you want to do is find the minimum, the maximum, and the range. Okay, and then your bonus question for your gray bonus box says divide the largest number by the smallest number in the set. So you're going to do the biggest number divided by the smallest number, and your hint is it's not going to divide evenly, which means you're going to have some left over. Okay, we'll go over that one tomorrow during class. Have a good night. Make smart choices.